Hello everyone. So I have a little bit of an update. As you guys know, I have been working on a death book and I finally have completed part 1. So that may not seem like much, but it's a lot to keep in mind. This is going to be roughly around like 55 chapters of a book. So currently I've just finished chapter 8, and again, those numbers don't always mean a lot to people who aren't in the writing industry, but it's a big deal. So if you want to watch the previous installments in this little update series, you can find them on my channel. But yeah, so basically part 1 is where I actually start moving into the like plannings of stuff. And so this first part is all of the things leading up to when a person dies. And so I've tried to include a lot of different stuff in this, and I'm very thrilled with how it turned out. And so I'm thinking I've got enough in here. Obviously when I go through the editing stages I'll decide, but I opted to not have it terribly complicated. And honestly, I kind of keep reflecting back on the books that I have read. For example, like the bedside rituals that they talk about, honestly, a lot of times, like, I don't know how realistic that's gonna be. Because if you are having a person who's dying, that doesn't happen within like a day. Sometimes it can take several days or weeks before they inevitably pass. Like there's a certain point past no return that like anyone who's worked medical can tell you if you've experienced death and you've seen it. Like there's a definite shift. Like you're living and then it's like, oh, you're not. Like they're technically there, but it's a very different state of existence. And you can tell when you look at a person when they're in that state. And that state can last for a few hours, days, weeks, and that's usually when hospice is involved, or whatever it's called in other places. But obviously my book is going to be based on US culture and stuff. That said, a lot of the books that I've read that talk about this, they don't have these rituals really designed for that stage per se. Like they do, but they don't. And so I kind of, because that's like the last part that I talked about in the book that I was writing today specifically. And so like the rituals for that, I'm like, you can't bring in candles and incense and stuff to a hospital. And sometimes that's where your person's gonna be. And sometimes it'll be like a nursing facility, like a nursing home or rehab facility kind of a thing. And again, they're not gonna let you bring that kind of stuff in. They don't really talk about that. And so I've got a ritual for when you're at their bedside and you want to do something, and it's not very elaborate, and I'm keeping it that way on purpose because I just feel like you don't need to have a lot of extra stuff on your plate. And so like the bedside one is like a little challenging because you need like 5 crystals, and they're not even that hard to find. You can go to any New Age shop or Amazon and find them, but I wanted it to be like a little bit more elaborate. And at the at-home version of it, if you're not going to be there, or if like you live across the country or something and like you physically can't go there to have something, or if you just, you know, have a life, and like I've done this plenty of times, to have something at home, kind of like a mini altar setup. And so I've got that, and I'm very excited with how this is turning out. There's various chapters so far where hopefully if you catch this book in time, you can kind of look over stuff of like, I've got a chapter just on the information that you're gonna need to get and gather, because there's a lot of paperwork. And there was some that I had never thought of until I went to research for this book, and I was like, oh yeah, that would make sense. So there's a lot in that chapter in and of itself. It's more of a checklist of just different things that you'll need, but I'm trying to make this book as much of a every step of the process that you could need kind of a book. Some of the stuff I'm keeping kind of low effort, especially like the first couple of chapters. I had a few things that you could do as like you've heard the news that the person's dying, or like they've gotten like a death sentence basically, because you know certain diseases you get a timeline. And so with that, it's like you can kind of start to prep and do stuff like that. And then this is like when you've been told like, no, it's gonna happen. And that's kind of where I leave it. And like also talking about like your options. And in that journey is when I found out that like aquamation has actually been legal in Utah longer than California, which was like a shock because I never anticipated that. And so Like, it's just been fun to research this, honestly, because I found out that, hey, I get to have my body taken care of, and probably Tooele, because I think they're the only city out here that has the machine. That's fine. And it's kind of, it makes me chuckle, because, like, I will be the one who is aquamated, so my body gets to turn to liquid in a hot bath at the end. And then my husband gets to go up in fire as a regular cremation. And I was like, that just seems so appropriate. Me the water sign, him the fire sign. But the stuff that I've been learning as I'm writing this book has been really fun. In like again, I have a very morbid curiosity, so it's more of like I finally get to hone it in towards something instead of just like watching Ask a Mortician for funsies. Like, I get to do a lot of research just because, and so I'm really excited with how the book is turning out. Now, I don't know how long it is going to take to get this book done. I was initially hoping to get this done by the end of the year, and then life just happens, and I ended up not getting it written in the timeline that I was hoping for, but that's okay. It's fine. At least I'm getting it written. So right now, I've been writing about a chapter a day, because again, I can do all of this creating stuff full time. And so I work on about a chapter a day. Sometimes it takes 2 days, especially like writing rituals. Sometimes it takes a minute to like really contemplate how you want to do it. And like, I don't want it to be every single thing is the exact same method. I want it to be varied so people feel like it's not like I just cookie cutter everything. And I'm also like adjusting how because I previously wrote a book of death rituals to do, but I'm trying to make it way more accessible of like, let's not need a gajillion different things. Like, even researching, I was like, oh, and then this crystal could be used, and then this one, and this one, and I was like, oh my god, rein it back. So I was like, okay, we're gonna pick 5. People can go by 5 if they want to, and that's it. No more. And like, a lot of the stuff I'm trying to keep it like, for like crystals, obviously you're gonna have to go to like a gem fair or a witchy shop or something to find it. But like your herbs and stuff, I want it to be like from a grocery store. So anyways, I'm very excited with how my book is turning out, and I'm glad to finally have part 1 done. And so I'll probably check in when I get each part done. I think I have 8 parts that I've divided this book out into, and so I'm very excited. I think the last part, the last chapter, is honestly going to be the hardest. It's going to require a lot of research, but yeah, I am very excited with this project, and I hope it'll be able to help witches for when that time comes, because inevitably, if you know people, you are going to experience death. That's the only guarantee we have in life. And so I'm hoping this book can actually really help a lot of people. Again, when I've gone to these other books, they didn't have the stuff I needed. Like, I'm gonna have a chapter on like a baseline of like how to write an obituary, because when you're in the throes of grief, it's sometimes nice just to have an outline of like, what do you need to say? Like, what's some options? Because again, it's just little things that you have to constantly have to research here, research there, instead of just having it in one place. And let alone like if you wanted to bless a headstone, or you wanted to bless the grave site, whatever. Like, there's just not a lot of like the tangible of like dealing with death, let alone like I'm always gonna have pet stuff and whatever. Those chapters are way later. Like right now I'm glad to finally have the death preparing as like the dying process part is now done. And now I get to move on to the next step. And so yeah, I'm very excited with how the book's turning out. I hope you guys are getting excited for it, even though it's a really depressing topic, I know. But it's good to have the information for when you actually need it. Because again, when you're grieving, your brain is not really functioning at its full capacity. Grief takes up a lot of brain space. I just wanted to give you guys an update on my book because I'm very excited about it. It'll be coming out sometime next year. I just have absolutely no idea when. Same with my fiction book. I don't know when that's gonna happen either, but it's gonna happen at some point next year. So I'll just kind of keep you posted as we go. I think once I get this, because usually like the first draft is honestly the hardest to get through. After that, editing doesn't take nearly as long for me. And so I'm hoping once I get all of these chapters done, that process will go a lot faster. That is going to be it for this update. I hope you guys are just as excited about it as I am, as it's slowly getting done. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day. And until tomorrow, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.